What's up, everybody? Welcome to lesson 2 in my liquidity providing series. Today, we're going to be talking about the difference between V2 and V3 style DEXs. And for those of you that don't know, a DEX is simply a decentralized exchange. So everything I talked about yesterday in my last video, one of the main differences between a centralized and a decentralized exchange is that on a centralized exchange, all of the liquidity that's provided comes from basically a single entity or a very centralized group of entities that not everybody has access to. So for example, you cannot take your coins and go provide liquidity on Coinbase, Kraken, or any of these centralized exchanges. A decentralized exchange is the opposite, in that the liquidity is sourced from the community. So anybody is able to come in, take their tokens, and deposit them into a liquidity pool to start earning fees. And this, in my opinion, is a humongous revolution, because anybody has access to the monetary energy or the financial energy of a crypto market without needing to ask permission or without needing to be part of an insiders club. Anybody can access the financial energy of a market and utilize it to start making money or execute swaps at an efficient rate or help support a specific crypto market. So today we're talking about the two most important ones for you to understand. If you understand these two, you are 90 to 95% of the way there to understanding how all liquidity works across every single L1 across the entire crypto market. So this is going to be a very important lesson. Make sure you pay attention, take notes if you want, but you don't need to take notes because all of this is recorded for you to watch anyways. So let's dig into it. It's going to start with Uniswap V2. And Uniswap V2 can be boiled down to this one formula: X times Y equals K. All of the swaps and prices are derived or are calculated by this formula. So I'm going to go through an example of how this formula is used to calculate how much price moves with each buy and sell, as well as how many coins are given out to a buyer or seller when they execute a swap. So we'll take the formula X times Y equals K. And let's use a similar example as before, where we have a hex at $1, but this time we have 100 hex in the pool and 100 USDC in the pool. First, X and Y, these represent the number of tokens in the liquidity pool, and then K is a constant. So no matter what happens to the amount of tokens into the pool, they always will equal K, the constant at the end of the swap. That constant is set by the person who sets the initial liquidity pool. So the person who opens it and creates the LP pool is the person who sets that constant, and it stays the same forever until it closes, which is basically means there is no constant at that point. So in this scenario, we have 100 USDC tokens and 100 hex tokens. You multiply 100 by 100, you get 10,000. Now that's what K is. So every single swap going forward, K will always equal 10,000. Technically, K can go up because in a V2 pool, the fees are put back into the liquidity pool. But that we can talk about that a little bit later. Okay, so let's go with our scenario that somebody wants to buy hex and they're going to put in 10 USDC tokens into this pool. So when they put in the 10 USDC tokens, at the end of that deposit, the pool is going to have 110 tokens left into it. Now, when you have that final amount of tokens of USDC in the pool, we need to again do just a very small algebra problem to calculate how many hex tokens are going to be left. And this is a division problem. So you just take, you divide X times Y by X, divide K by X. In this case, it's 110. And so what we're left with is 91. So there are going to be 91 hex tokens left in the pool after this swap. And so, if we multiply 110 by 91, we basically get back to 10,000. And if you notice, the price of hex has went from $1 to $1.20, which makes sense because somebody's buying the price. If you're buying up the token, the price is going up. Now, how many tokens are given to the person executing the swap? Well, if we take this 100, we have 100 tokens originally. We have 91 left over after the swap, which means 9 tokens are going to the buyer. Now, one important thing to note is that the price of here was $1, and you would expect if you put $10 in, you should get 10 hex tokens out. Well, this person only got 9. And that's a really important concept to understand. And that's the concept of slippage, which is the difference between what you expect to get based on the based on the quoted price when you start your transaction or your swap, and the actual coins that you get. Typically, this is represented. Typically, slippage is understood by the different market orders, or the different orders in a market book, in an order book, and then as you fill in those orders, the difference in price is the slippage that you're getting. For a decentralized exchange, it's basically the difference between what you expected to get and what you actually get based on the liquidity that's there. So in this case, we had a slippage of, I believe, like 10%, which is really, really high. But for the sake of example, it's pretty clear. If we take the formula x times y equals k and we plot it on a graph, this is what we get. And what you'll see is that on the bottom you have x, and at the top we have y. Now, this graph right here gets across a very, very, very important concept in V2 liquidity, and that is that your liquidity is spread across all possible prices between the two assets that you've provided liquidity on. And the way this graph shows that is by being asymptotic towards zero, both on the x-axis and the y-axis. And what asymptotic means is that these lines will continuously approach zero on the y-axis and on the x-axis, but it will never actually hit zero. So it'll get infinitely close to zero, but never actually touch it, which is the definition of asymptotic. What that means is when you provide, say, $1,000 of liquidity in a V2 DEX, your liquidity is spread. Let's just use Hex, for example, from infinitely small, as close to zero as you can get, all the way to infinity. So you're technically providing liquidity at $1,000 per Hex token, $1 million per Hex token when you're providing it in a V2 position. Now let's take that same example that we just outlined back here, and let's see what that looks like on the V2 chart, because that could help exemplify or help you understand what's going on when a swap is executed on V2. So it's going to use the same example, Hex and USDC, and let's say the price starts at this P prime right here. So we have price here at P prime, and this is how much Hex is in here, and this is how much USDC is in the pool. This amount right here, and then this amount of Hex. So let's say we put that same $10 of USDC in, and this blue line represents that $10. The price then moves from here all the way from P prime to P. And so if you'll notice, as the price has moved up to the left in this specific graph, all of a sudden the amount of Hex has changed, and technically it has decreased. So the movement of Hex from here to here, this red bar would represent the 9 USDC tokens taken out. So over here was 100, and now it's 91 over here. It's not to scale. This is just overlaying the previous example to this one. And then this red bar right here represents the amount of Hex tokens taken out of the pool, which our previous example, it was 9 tokens. Now, if you remember, I said that all of the liquidity is spread infinitely across all prices from zero to infinity, essentially. And so when we do another swap from here, because the price has gone up and because there isn't that much liquidity at every price, you're actually going to get less tokens for the same magnitude of buy. And we see that represented in this graph right here. So let's do another buy. Let's say P prime, P, and now we're going to go to P double prime right here, for example. And now this blue bar is the same size as the previous bar right here. And if you'll notice, when we go up to this new price, we're actually getting less Hex tokens out when we do the same magnitude of buy. And this is what this is representing here. This first buy with this 10 USDC or however much it is getting this much Hex out. But the second buy afterwards is only getting this much Hex out. And that's what's happening as you're buying up the price in an X times Y equals K DEX or a Uniswap V2 style DEX. And on Pulse Chain, things like PulseX, 9inch, Spark Swap, 9mm has a V2 DEX. We have a bunch of V2 DEXs currently live, and this is the exact formula that they're using to calculate how many funds are being paid out per swap. And as you continue to buy up the price, the amount of coins that you get outputted will continuously decrease over and over and over and over and over again until the price is so high. And this makes a lot of sense, right? If the price is going up, you are getting less tokens for that same dollar value. And so this graph essentially represents that, I guess, how could you say it? It represents how price action looks graphically. That's what this graph is. Now, V2 liquidity is great in that it provides liquidity at every single price. So there's always coins to be buying and selling at every single price point, which it can be spun as a good thing, and it is a good thing. But what about coins that don't trade and that aren't very volatile relative to each other? What about like stable coins? USDC and USDT never really go outside of 99 cents and $1.01 because they're always arbitrage back to $1 because they're both stable coins backed by fiat and can be redeemed for $1. So is that style of liquidity really efficient? If we have tokens set in liquidity at 1,000 USDC per 1 USDT, are those coins ever going to be traded with? And the answer to that is no. And this is what this is exactly what I said is represented here on this graph. If we put USDC and USDT together, and if P right here is say 99 cents, and then P prime is $1.01, all of the trading is going to be happening within this range. And then all of the liquidity that exists outside of this range is never going to be utilized. And this presents somewhat of a problem because we have inefficient liquidity that isn't being used to service the market. And so we need a lot more liquidity available to be able to service a greater market. We're simply not being capital efficient. And that is where Uniswap V3 or V3 liquidity comes into play. With V2, think X times Y equals K, infinite liquidity, infinite spread of liquidity across all prices. With V3, think concentrated liquidity. So this graph, this image right here represents the different types of positions that exist on a V2 and a V3 style DEX. And this is taken directly from the Uniswap white paper. So in a V2 position, like I said, your liquidity is spread equally across prices of 0 to infinity. So you put $1,000, that $1,000 is spread from 0 to infinity completely equally. A single position on V3 has discrete price parameters. So instead of 0 to infinity, you can place your liquidity between $1 and $2, and all 1,000 of your dollars is spread equally across $1 and $2. Now, this is great because instead of there being, say, a couple cents out at $1 million per hex token at USDC, and you just want to trade, you just want to have in liquidity, and price mostly trades between $1 and $2 in this example, well, you can put all of your liquidity together in that really tight range so that the market is better serviced and you're actually earning more fees that way. We'll get into that a little bit later. But in a V3 system, liquidity, there isn't just one position. So this just represents one person's position, but we can have multiple positions. So let's say PA and PB, PA is $1, PB is $2. We'll say somebody has another position of $1,000, but it ranges from $1.50 to $2.50. So we have $1,000 from $1 to $2, and then $1,000 from $1.50 to $2.50. There are two separate positions of $1,000, equally split across $1 range, but one is shifted 50 cents higher. Well, if you notice that this second position represented by the red bar overlaps half of this original blue position. And so what that means is from 50 cents to $1, instead of only having $500 of liquidity, which each position has, they overlap. And now there's $1,000 of liquidity between 50 cents and $1 with this example. And so when you overlap positions on a V3 system, the amount of liquidity at those discrete price ranges increases proportional to the amount of liquidity that is overlapping at that price. And that is what this multiple V3 positions represents right here. It's typically when you look at V3 liquidity histograms, they are normally distributed. And all that means is that there is this nice hill that peaks in the center and then is equidistantly decreasing as price increases or as you're going away from where the current price is. And what you'll see is that peak where the normal distribution is will move where price is. And there are reasons for that we'll get into a little bit later. And so just understanding that concept, what we can do is understand how we can understand how there's different amounts of liquidity at different price ranges for a V3 liquidity pool. So this is pulled from corkey.eth, amazing website. I'll link it in the description. And this was back when Hex was about 9 cents. So, better days, you could say. But I like this graph specifically because it shows you how within one liquidity pool, you can have very different types of liquidity across different price ranges. And so what we see here is that there's a high amount of liquidity from this price to this price. And what that means is that if there's a high amount of liquidity, there is less slippage and lower volatility. And what I mean by that is if we have $1,000 from $1 to $2, it takes $1,000 to move price from $1 to $2. If you have $10,000 from $1 to $2, it takes $10,000 to move from $1 to $2. So the more liquidity there is, the slower price moves because you need more money to move the price the same distance. The opposite is true for low liquidity. So in this area right here, if there's low liquidity, there's higher slippage because it takes less money to move the price, and there's higher volatility because the velocity of price is moving because it takes less money to move the price. And then here's a nice example of what like a medium amount of liquidity would look like between these two. So we would get a medium amount of slippage and a medium amount of volatility if price were to range within this red bar right here. All right, guys, I hope you liked the second lesson. That was a little bit more jam-packed, a lot of technical data, a lot of really good information that if you understand that, then you will be well equipped to utilize both V2 and V3 DEXs to best fit your portfolio strategy and your crypto strategy, whether it be to buy crypto, sell crypto, or to produce passive income. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please be sure to leave a like on the video, hit the subscribe button to make sure that you see the next one coming out tomorrow. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one where we're going to talk about a humongous concept often misunderstood by those in the crypto community, and that is impermanent loss. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Stick around for the next one. Peace out.